All right, the recording has started. Welcome back to week 5 in mobile web applications. I'm in the week 4 folder here just because I'm recapping what we covered last week. So we introduced PWAs again. We looked at a demo on my website of just a hello world that we were working on. We did a PowerPoint looking at what a service worker is. You can download that PowerPoint here. Then we built our very first offline PWA with the Hello World, and there was no functionality to it; it just said Hello World, and we were able to install it to our machine and test it, running it off of a hosted server in Visual Studio Code. Then I gave you guys an extra little lab if you want to do the Google Code Labs as extra work just for good practice. And I introduced assignment 2, which is making your website from assignment 1 into a PWA. So that was last week. That's the little recap there. Any questions about any of this stuff before we move into week 5 material? Any queries, any concerns? Or is everybody pretty comfortable with what we covered in class last week? Was anyone able not get it working? Like, did any of your websites not work? Hopefully they are all installable. I know we stayed late after with some to make sure that they were working, but a couple things I wanted to cover this in class. One thing to keep in mind, I'll just open up my Visual Studio Code. And I mentioned this while I was teaching, but I remember I had a lot of internet issues, so it could have easily been missed, was that your service worker has to be in the root folder in order for all of the functionality of your PWA to work. So if we look here, and I'm just on my index.html, and I just have my hello world h1 tag, the service worker here has to be in the root folder. So it can't be in your JS folder with main.js. It can't be in the images or CSS folder. It's in the root folder as well as the manifest.json right there at the very bottom, okay? So I'll just open up my File Explorer to show you what that looks like in File Explorer. What I mean by root folder. Basically, is it's here. Like this is the root folder. So I have my folder called whatever. Most people call this root, all lowercase. I just call this PWA Hello World 2. And then everything in my root folder is here. So my manifest.json, my service worker.js. If you have a favicon, you have a favicon, and then your index.html. Oops. And then anything else goes into a subdirectory, right? So it's not in the root folder, it's in a subfolder. So your main.js. So a couple people had, because this is a JS file, a couple people had this in there. But if you did that, it wouldn't work. So the installability, the offline functionality, the caching, none of that would work. Okay. So let me just open up. We're going to open up our code from last week. I believe it's this one. So get your code open in Visual Studio Code or whatever you prefer to open it in. Second, I just need to make a copy from last week's because that's already the finished version of what we're doing for this week. So I'm going to take this one, copy it into week 5, and then I'll just make a pasted version of it here. File, open folder. Here we go. So this is what you guys should have pretty much sw.js here, manifest.json with our icons. Remember, we put all our icons in. We gave it some theme colors, some background colors. And then our index page was a very simple index with a div container and a title that said hello world. Our JS in here is where we actually loaded up our service worker or registered it with the .register method. And then nothing special was really happening in our CSS, just some centering of our text, display flex, and then some font styles. So that is what we should have today. So get that open. Give me a thumbs up when you guys are ready to go with that. Cool, cool. A couple people gave me some thumbs up. Awesome. And just want to get this open too. Folder. Oops. Is that not working? Mobile web applications, week 5. All right. So I'm just going to do a little PowerPoint. This is on the Blackboard, and in week 5, you can download the PowerPoint here of, I believe you can download the PowerPoint. Where is it? Right here at the very bottom. I'll just move it up there. Week 5 PWA notifications, and I'll show you an example on my phone after we actually go through this, but we're gonna look at doing some notifications today on PWAs and actually implementing them into our PWA and making them work on our desktop and our mobile devices. So how do you implement notifications in PWAs? Well, it's not actually as difficult as you might think. So just here's an example of what our site will look like now. We'll have our hello world, but then we'll have a little button underneath for adding notifications. And then a notification will always, you'll need to either block or allow. So you'll need to request permissions, much like how you would request permissions on an Android device or an iOS device. You have to request permissions through the browser if it's on the desktop machine, whether or not you want veneragon.ca or whatever domain name your site is on to allow notifications. You'd hit allow, and then next time you hit the notification button, this is what a notification body looks like. I believe this is on Firefox. All right. And then on Google Chrome, it looks more like this. And you'll recognize some of these icons. These are the icons that we downloaded or made in last week's folder. Now, every notification will have a title, which is Hello World in this example. And every notification will have a body, which is this is a notifications body in this example. And then I've added something called actions here at the bottom. So not every notification will have these, but you see it says go to the site or no thanks, and each of them have an icon. You can add these actions and you can append links to them. So if you wanted one to be like an email link, or if you wanted one to be like a redirect to a certain web page, then you can do that and hit go to the site, and it can take you to a site or something. So you can define actions, and we'll show you how to do that today. This is what it looks like on a mobile screen. So again, those two actions are right there underneath. And then we can see the icon is here. It just formats it differently. But the cool thing about this is you design it in one spot, and then it's designed basically in Android, iPhone, and desktop all in one. So it's very cross-platform. And you'll notice too, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little sword here. That little sword is an icon. We can specify what icon we want to use for our notification icon. So the steps that we're going to go through today that you can follow along through the PowerPoint if you want is adding the button to our index.html. So we're going to add a button and an on-click function that we will call here. And that's where we're going to put our JavaScript code. After that, yep.
The same goes for iOS for
So
notification?
Actually, I haven't tested it in iOS, so I don't have an iPhone on me. But someone can go to the website that I have. That's a good question. PWA2, veneragon.ca/PWA2. I'll put it in the chat. And you guys can test it on iPhone and tell me what does the notification look like. So you'll have to install the app, I think. Otherwise, it'll just run through your browser.
Yes, sir. I have already installed your app, and I told you in our last lecture that I can't see your logo and application icon.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And does the notification work at all or no? Yeah. Like when you hit the notification button, does anything happen?
No, sir.
No, sir. Okay. I might have an iPhone lying around here actually. Let me see if it's charged. Old iPhone. It is not currently charged. I'll plug this in. This will be cool. I'll plug this in, and we will test it on my iPhone here and see what happens. It's the life of developing. Plug it into charge. Testing on different devices. Okay. Wait a second, I'm just going to plug this in. Okay. Okay, that's charging. So we'll see if that works once that turns on. What should the favicon.ico be and how do you create one? We'll get to that. I think we covered that today, Michelle. If we don't, remind me, because I believe I have something in there about that. But the favicon, very quickly, if you look right here, I'm sharing this screen. The favicon is this up here. Oh, my color changed. I don't want to be yellow. The favicon is this little icon at the top of your browser. So like you can see Blackboards is like a little B and a B like that. So basically it's an ICO file or an icon file that that just shows in the tabs. It's not working, hey? Let's just do a little quick notifications on. Yeah, so I think Apple does not support push notifications on iOS. I think you have to register the app ID on the app developer portal. Option 2 and 3, you have to have permission to push notifications. So there is ways to do it, but unfortunately, and like Apple is a little bit slower than other places. Like you could see Safari wasn't supported, and Microsoft Edge also doesn't really support PWAs yet, but they're coming around to it. So I think Apple's a little bit behind in supporting some of the PWA functionality. There's some really good websites with everything that introduction to progressive apps. I believe this is it on Mozilla. All of these things, installability, linkability, progressive, all of this stuff, responsiveness, browser support. It's not actually supported on, so other features, web app manifest, push notifications, add to home screen, have wide support, but currently Safari has limited support for the web app manifest and add to home screen and no support for web push notifications. So Apple is a little bit behind, but I believe that they will get there. PWAs are very new, so it's not necessarily, it is, I guess, cross-platform, but unfortunately you won't get all the features on every single platform right away. So I guess that answers that question there. So yeah, that's an example on an Android phone of what a notification looks like. So yeah, you add your button function, and then you make that function in your main.js, and it looks like this. And then you give something called options, an options object or JSON object in an array here. And you have to pass it a body, you have to pass it an icon. You can actually specify, this is really cool if I show you here, you can specify a vibration pattern for your notification. You can also give it a badge, which is that sword image that I showed you. And then you can also pass primary key if you wanted to identify the notification and pass it like say data from a database or something. And then here's the actions array that I was telling you about. So you can actually give it a title, go to the site, and then an actual, if you wanted to pass a link, you can pass a link. Here, the action is called go, and then there'd be another method called go that has the link in it. So you can see here, if event.action equals go, then I call this method called archive email. And then if they click the other one, I do clients.openWindows/inbox. So I bring them to an inbox page. And that's on an add event listener for notification click in the serviceworker.js. I'm way zoomed in here. So these are the couple of the things you have to add for notifications. And then we can take a quick look to make sure our resources are still caching. We can test our offline functionality. I'll show you guys how to do that today. And then if this is just if you're in a non-root path, You just have to do it a little bit differently. You have to add the dot slash in front for your service worker.js. Okay, so that PowerPoint's there on Blackboard if you want to follow along with that. There's also a recording already added, but I'll also upload today's. But without further ado, let's get into it. Oh, also, quick reminder, assignment 2 is due October 11th. Okay, so that's making your website a PWA. So just don't forget about that. That is coming up on Monday.
Sir,
Yes.
we didn't get grades for first assignment.
Oh, yes, that's a good point. I was meaning to do that this week. So you
Okay, no problem.
should get them sent out to you soon.
Okay, no problem, sir.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks. No, thanks for reminding me. Can we use SVG format images? For what? For the icons? Or for the icons? It's a good question. SVG is interesting because they're vectors, right? So SVG format for PWA icons. Let's see. There's probably a special way to do it. It looks like you can, and then you have to specify the size, but then when you say the type, so remember in our manifest.json here, you said the type was image/png. It looks like the type here, you say image/svg plus XML, not just /svg. So then it becomes visible in the web. And then for purpose, you don't say maskable, as you may see. We didn't say anything for purpose, but yeah, hopefully that answers your question there. So you just have to specify it a little bit differently with the type instead of PNG, and then you just reference it obviously with the .svg file. Oops, did I just? Yeah. Cool. All right, so looking at our there we go. Open this up. So let's get coding. Let's open that up and start off with actually creating the button on our index.html here. All right, so it's going to be in the container div after our title. And we're going to create a button class. And we're going to give it an onClick method. And you can call this really whatever you want. You have to name it notification. You have to name it the same name so that it can find the reference in the main.js. Okay, so we do button onClick display notification, brackets inside of the quotes, end brackets, and then whatever you want to be the text on your button, test notification. There we go. So if we update this and I hit go live, all right, there we go. It says show notification there in my button. Obviously, this is not going to do anything yet because shouldn't do anything yet because it hasn't actually been initialized with any functions. Now mine is actually showing a notification. This is kind of funny. Mine is showing a notification. I don't think you can see it because I'm sharing on the other screen. If I share this screen with you guys, I think it's because it's using the same service worker for the same page. It's actually showing it, but all right. Oh well. Yours shouldn't do anything. So let me share that. All right. All right, so we've got our button. Just want to open this up so we're following along. All right, now we want to go to our main.js. And in here, we're going to create a couple of functions after our window.onload, okay? So in JS folder, main.js, we've got our window.onload and this if statement with our service worker. And then after this bracket here, I'm just going to make a comment, say this function is called when button on index.html is clicked. We have to check if permissions, remember, for notifications in browser is granted. Then we'll show a notification. So function, whatever you called it, easiest way to do this, instead of typing it, is go to index.html, double click, Control C, Control V. Because as you can see here, I spelt notification wrong. I'm missing my I there, right? And when I copied and paste, you can see it's the same, but obviously I spelled it wrong. So notification, I'm going to make sure I actually spell it right. Notification. Function display notification. Open our parentheses. And in here is where we're going to actually log to our console the status of our permissions, or our permission status. Whether it's granted or denied. All right, so console.log, very, very common method that we use with web development. Notification, permission status, and then we're just going to append status, okay? Now, obviously, status, this little variable doesn't exist yet. So what we have to do is we're going to pass it to that function. So I'm going to make something, I'm going to call the notification interface here. And we can see this is the API interface for using notifications used to configure and display desktop notifications to the user. So we use notification. For me, it goes green in Visual Studio Code. Whatever IDE you're using might be a little bit different. But we do notification.request permission, and then here's where we get our status. So it's our callback. It says it's deprecated, but I think it'll still work. Not sure actually the new way to do it. But inside of there, we're going to pass back our status. So we're going to take that console.log that we made earlier and put it right in there, and then this status will be called back from our request permission. It says it's a deprecated callback. I wonder what the new method for that is. Let's see. Oh, I see. So they've actually updated it. So it used to be this dot request permission with the callback in it. Now they want you to do request permission dot then function permission. So the latest spec has updated the method to a promise-based syntax that works like this. And a promise will return either granted, denied, or default. So let's see how they wrote it here. Notifications dot request permission dot then function permission if permission granted. Okay. So let's write it the actual correct way here. Notification dot request permission. Okay, and then we get rid of our status here. We're going to write it the non-deprecated way. Oh, sorry. Let me just open my chat. I'm missing that there. All right, Varun. Thanks. You can watch the recording after. No worries. So request permission dot then, and then we will do function, and this is where we'll pass it permission, like that. All right, and then we do this. Get rid of this one. And we do that, and we can put console.log, and then in here, instead of status, we'll just pass it permission. Cool? All right, so that's actually the new way to do it right there. Now this is saying it's expecting a closing. Oh, yes. Right here. There you go. Console.log notification permission status. Permission right there. We close that, and now we can actually do an if statement to check if it's granted. So if notification dot permission. Now in JavaScript we do 3 equal signs to check equality, right? Now we want to check if it's granted. Then we're going to call our service worker, get the registration, and this is where we're going to actually call our show notification method. So we're getting our service worker, and the service worker, remember, is what enables us to show our notifications. So show notification, whoops. And in here, we want to do hello world, whatever you want to say. And then here's where we pass it. You can see that we can just pass it just a title right here, but it's also asking for second argument. So the show notification method expects a string for the title, which is what we did, and then it's also expecting an options object or JSON. So we'll just call it options for now. Even though it doesn't exist, we haven't created it yet. And we'll create that right now. All right, so this one, trying to make sure this is right. Edge should have that in front of it. Close that. Boom, boom. There we go. And save it. All right, how's everybody doing? Everyone caught up so far? I don't know where this is expecting a semicolon. Oh, I spelled function wrong, that's why. Okay, there we go. Okay, now after this method, we're going to define that object called options, or what we're going to actually make it as a const because we don't want it to change, right? So we're going to create a const called options, and we're going to pass it a couple of parameters. And you can find out what these parameters are pretty easily. If you want to, you can just, oops. If you want to, you can just Google it and look at notification options parameters, PWA. If you just Google it like this, and this is where we can find on Mozilla through their API, notifications API, we can look at creating a notification. So it expects, where we're looking, a body, an image, an icon. Here's their options. So you can do as little or as many as you want. So their options, they just did a body and an icon. And then when they made their notification object, they passed the title and then they passed the options. Now there's more examples of options here. Let me see. I believe. Here we go. Google. Add notification options right there. So we can see here they have a body, they have an icon, they have a vibrate method, they have the data that they're passing. So if you wanted to pass like a date and then primary key and then actually adding actions is another thing you can put in your options. All right, so that's how you can kind of find some of that documentation there. So in our const options, we'll do body. And this is just a string. This is a notification body. And then we separate everything by commas, right? So icon, we'll just reference one of our images that's already in here. Hello-icon. And we'll use the 512 one. It'll resize it depending on what it needs it for. The 512 one's the biggest, right? So now if we want to do a vibration, this is actually passed as an array. So in square brackets, in the number of milliseconds you want on and then off, you can separate it by commas. So like if you want it to be 100 milliseconds on, 50 milliseconds off, and then 100 milliseconds of vibration again, you can do that, which is kind of cool. Now, obviously your desktop won't vibrate, but if it's on your phone or something, it should pass that to it. Now, badge. This one's interesting. A badge is a string as well, and it can be a link to an image that you have somewhere, or it can also be a link to an image online that's hosted somewhere. So for me, at this URL, I have a notification image hosted at this address. And I'll just open it up and I'll show you what the image is. And you guys can reference this as well if you want to use this one. That's totally fine. So this is my image here. And you can see it's actually like a sword. Like it's colored in and everything. It's red and gold and silver and it's got a sword. Now you can put whatever image you want. I'm just hosting this on my website and then I'm referencing it as my badge, okay? And you'll see how this will play out later, okay? After the badge, we can pass it some sort of data if we wanted to. So in here, we can pass it, you can call this whatever you wanted. In our case, we can call it primary key, and then whatever. This basically lets us identify the notification. So if you wanted to check where the notification was coming from. No, it's not, Michelle, and neither is the other method. As you can see, this bracket here is the last bracket of window.onload. So we just want to make sure on the window.onload, the service worker gets registered. This method we want to be outside of the window.onload because it will only be called when this button is clicked on click in the index.html. Our button has an on click call that will trigger the display notification function. So they're separate. And then that method ends here, and then we're just making a const that will be passed to the method. As we can see here, options is going to be passed to our notification. All right. So after that, that lets us identify the notification with a primary key. Good question, though, Michelle. Yeah, this is my main.js so far, right here. I can see, how do I zoom out? There we go. If you can read that, that's the whole thing there. So actions is passed as an array. So in square brackets, we title it action, and then you give it a name. So you can call this whatever you want. It's just kind of like a reference to a method that you'll add the code that you want to execute later. So we can name this whatever. I could name this go cat or whatever. For this example, I'll call it go. As long as you use the same reference, it'll trigger that method in our other function. So we can give it a title here, and this is what the user will see when they want to click a button. Yeah, I can zoom back. Okay, thanks. Oh, that's a lot of zoom in. Okay, so title, go to the website. So that's a string. Then after our title, we can pass it an icon. And for that icon, I'm gonna pass it the sword image again. And I forgot this whole thing has to be in curly braces. Like that. So I'm going to zoom out just so you can see that whole line of code. So the whole thing has to be in curly braces. It's its own JSON object. And I'm going to make 2 of them. And you separate them by commas like this. Cool. Get rid of this one. All right, so it's an actions array, and there's 2 actions in it. One action is called go. The other action will be called close. And then, oh, sorry, Michelle, I didn't see that. Is this one good now? That one's called close. And then we'll change it to say something like, no thanks. And we'll use the same icon just for this example. Yeah, there we go. That should show you the whole thing now. I think I can move this in a little bit. Nope. This in. No, it's not letting me. Oh my goodness. I'll zoom at 1 level. There we go. Oh. So that is our const of options, all right? So this whole thing here. And then we want to add a semicolon to the very end of it, because it's basically like we just made a variable with a JSON object, and then every, because we're using strict here, we have to end each line with a semicolon, or each declaration. So I'll save that. I'm going to make sure I save this. So any site I've made changes to is saved. See if my iPhone is charged here. So I'm just going to try this on the iPhone. Not in Safari though. I'm going to try it in Google Chrome. All right, so the moment of truth. I know you can't see my screen right now, but I'm going to hit the button. Yeah, so it doesn't even prompt you to download. And if I hit the test notifications button, nothing happens. So that's iPhone. Yeah. So notifications won't work, and it won't be installable, I guess, for iPhone users, even if I'm in Chrome. Wait, let me make sure I'm on the same site. Yeah, that's too bad. And if I'm on Safari, yeah, nothing. Cool. So now,
Hello.
hello.
Sir, I am having some issues with my live server. Like actually it's my button is not showing.
Okay, so
Like
you can right click on index and then you should be able to do open with live server there.
yes, I have done that. Like but when I'm open it manually, it's showing me the button. But when I'm opening it with live server, it's not showing me the button.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sometimes my button disappears. But then once you close the server, it should be back there or no?
No, it's not. Like I even restarted the Visual Studio. I uninstalled the live extension and installed it again also.
Interesting. And what happens when you right click index.html?
I tried it also. Wait. No, it's not showing.
Interesting. Um, If you close, what if you close Visual Studio and you open it again?
I did it. That also.
Interesting. Okay. Um, Michelle, you were having something like this happen. Did you end up using a different extension, or did you find a way to get the live server one working?
I just uninstalled and reinstalled. It works a little differently because I'm on a Mac. So sometimes, and it works better in the incognito Chrome windows as well. But yeah, it wasn't, you have to leave it open in your Visual Studio Code framework or whatever you want to call it, like when you've got your files open. It has to have that in there, and then you'll be able to refresh it on the live server one once you open one. That's what I've been doing.
Right. Okay. So, sorry, it's Rohan that's having this issue right now?
Arman. It's Arman.
Oh, Armin. Oh, sorry. Okay. I couldn't see who's talking there. There it is. Okay. Yeah, so maybe try it. I mean, I know you said you uninstalled it there, but uninstall it and then close Visual Studio and then open it up and reinstall and let me know.
Okay.
We can take a look at it. We can take a look at it in a little bit here when we step away for a little break. But
Okay.
yeah, let me know, see if that works. Okay, interesting. So yes, this is our const for our options. This is what will be passed in here. So when it shows the notification title, it'll also have some other options passed along with it. As you can see in this slide from the PowerPoint, it'll have a couple of other things, right? Cool. One last thing we have to do is add an event listener for if the user clicks those options. So if a user actually clicks these action buttons in the bottom that says go to the site or no thanks, or on the phone they click it, then we actually have to have something that can detect that click. So what we'll do is in our service worker now, or sw.js, whatever you decided to call it, we have to add another event listener. So we have a couple here. One's listening for the install event. One's listening for the fetch event. We're going to add another one for a notification click event. So same way that we've done the other ones, add event listener. Okay, but then we're going to pass it a different name now. So notification click is the name we're going to pass. And then it is a type function with an event handler. All right. Okay, so inside of this function, the first thing we want to do is close the notification, right? Because you'd expect, okay, I clicked something, the notification should now close and take me to whatever action or event I was clicking. So we close the notification, and then we're going to have a little if statement here that checks which event they chose. So if the event dot action equals, because that's how we check for equality in JavaScript. Now remember, I'm doing go here. If you did something else, you can check in your main.js what action you're checking for. So mine is go and close, okay? So if it's go, what I'll do is in my curly braces, user clicked go to the site. Then what we can do is we can do a console.log and say user clicked go. So this will just be for our development purposes. And then we can try doing something like clients dot, oops, clients. Nope, I'm not trying to type that. Open the window. And then we can give it an address to go to. I don't know, we can just try google.ca, for example, if we wanted to go to google.ca. All right. So that's that first if statement. Now, You know, if they didn't click that one, that they clicked the other one, right? Well, actually, no, we can do this. So we can do else if event.action equals, I believe it was close was my other one. Then here we can do console.log user clicked close. I think that's the one it was. Let me just check. It was close and it was no thanks. Okay. User clicked close. Okay. So then that one will just be, we'll just leave it like that. And then the last one is we'll have a catch-all condition. So the else will basically, this will fire if they didn't click one of the two actions, then they must have clicked the main body of the notification. Main body of notification was clicked. All right. And then here what we can do is we can just, let's see. So you can make a whole other method in here. Let's see where that code is. What you could do is you could make a method here, if you wanted to call it like archive email or something like that. And then this function you could add to the same spot, main.js, and you could make a function just like we did here called display notification. And you could put a bunch of code in there to archive an email or something, right? We'll just console out console.log user clicked main body. Okay, and end that with a semicolon. All right, so that's that else statement. And then we can just do that. So I know it looks like a lot of code, but it's not actually that bad. If I separate it like this, so we have our close, else if, else, and that. Cool. So that's the notification click function, and that will only get fired in if they actually click the notification. It's just like an event listener that waits for an event to happen, and then it checks if the action was go close or if it was just nothing and it was the main body. All right, hopefully that makes sense. We can save that. Cool. And now I'm actually gonna I'm gonna move this to my other screen because that's my main monitor. So I'm gonna stop sharing this screen and I'm gonna start sharing my other screen here. Okay, you should be able to see this one. And I'm gonna bring this over and we're gonna give it a test. Now I've had issues in the past where the notification's blocked by the recording software, but there it is. Look at that. It worked. So we can see it's coming from 127.0.0.1, which is my local host, port 5500, which is the address up here. We can also see that little sword icon. Go to the site, no thanks. Okay. And we can see that that's that image that I hosted. And then here's our hello world icon. Okay. So we've got our title, which is hello world. And then we've got our notification body, which this is our notification body. All right. How big should the icon in the notification be? I would say, oh, like the sword or the letter H? The sword. For me, it's pretty small, but I suppose, I wonder, I thought it was just automatically they managed the size. Why, is yours way bigger? It'd be interesting if yours was way bigger. Because I know the image file I'm referencing, it's much, much bigger than this, but they shrink it down to just be an icon. So it should be, I guess, like, I don't know what that is, 12 pixels by 12 pixels. But I didn't have to do anything for sizing requirements for it to work. So, okay, if I click either this notification body if I click the go to the site or the no thanks, there should be an event handler or an event listener that will actually do something. So I click go to the site, and that should open. Let me see here. What did I do? I should do clients.openWindow google.ca. What did I have here? Clients.openWindow/inbox. So let's try that. Let's just add it to, you either have to specify HTTPS:/ for it to work. Nope. Or you can give it a if you give it a / whatever, it'll just stay on your site, but it'll try to redirect you to /inbox. So if I go to my PWA2 version of it here, and if I click this, see, it took me to /inbox there. Now, I don't actually have an inbox page on this website, but if you did, then you could redirect them to another page per se. If you wanted to take them to like a purchase page, or like a, say it was a notification that you had purchased something and then you wanted to take them to like their order summary page, you could have a little notification button that if they clicked there, it would take them to their little order summary. Now, if I click no thanks, obviously that'll just close it. And then if I click the main body, that'll just close it as well. So if I hit F12 and I look at my console, remember we were printing to the console. So if I hit F12, there we go, and we go to our console, look at this. Notification permission status granted, no. Notification permission status granted, no. So I printed something like no out to the screen here. Let's take a look here. Where am I printing off no? Granted. So it doesn't look like this console log is getting called event.action. So we'll just double check. So for example, you just use the hello icon in the options. So what size is it? I'll show you. So I just referenced this. And this size, I believe, is a 50 by 50 pixel. Or you could just use one of your hello icons, which was like the 144 by 144 or whatever. It should just resize it. So it doesn't matter. I think as long as it's square, it's fine. Actually, I don't even know if it has to be square. It probably will squish it. But that was the size of the icon I used, which is 128 by 128. So I don't think it matters too much. I wonder where this no is getting printed from. That's interesting. 5 user messages. It's coming from my service worker. Interesting. So in sw.js, printing off console.log, user clicked close, console.log, no, console.log. Interesting. I wonder if it's not actually getting called. If event.action equals go. Notification. I am not good at spelling notification here. Event.notification. Notification.close. Let's see that. If event.action. That might have changed something. It's working for you, Salman? Oh, nice. Yeah, you probably can spell better than me. Let's close this and refresh it. And let's see. Let's go to the site. No thanks. Oops, hit the microphone. I'm getting yay and I'm getting no. You know what this is coming from? For some reason, my service worker is not running this code. My service worker that's registered, for some reason, I have another text editor opened, and look, I haven't even run this, but I've got console.log yay and no. So sometimes this can happen. Your service worker can actually, if I go to here, if I go to application and then I go to service worker, you can see the service worker that's registered here, service worker.js. Now, if I look at my file in Visual Studio, you can notice this is sw.js. And then this is actually service worker.js. So sometimes what can happen is because I visited this in my browser, veneragon.ca/pwa2, if I go to my developer tools here, we can see that this is referencing service worker.js. Because they have the same service worker, if I actually stop this one, so I just stopped that, and then I can also unregister it, so it's deleted. If I refresh this now, it should use sw.js, update on reload. Okay, so that one is not working anymore, which is good. Update, unregister this. It's waiting to activate. It activated and stopped. So let's see if this works. Now, if I click F12, let's check our console. Oh, it's still printing yay and no. So if somehow that service worker, oh, maybe I should have gotten off of this page. So it just installed, stopping it, unregistering it, delete, update on reload. It should be sw.js. Yes, you're right. And that's what I'm trying to force it to do right now. But if I look in my index.html, actually, where do I register it? I register it in my main.js. No. Main.js is registering sw.js. It's just whether or not that's actually what I uploaded here. It could have cached the other index.html, and that can be the problem. So if I go to my cache storage here, and I look at my HTML or my main.js, look at it cached the other file because I have very similar files, right? So it's cached the wrong version. So if I just delete that and then I refresh this, update on reload and refresh, and I go back to my, so we can say I've got hello-world-pwa and hello-pwa. So this one should be called hello-pwa. So we can see I've got two cached storages in here, and this one, it's the right version of it. Now the main question is whether or not, now it's sw.js. See that? So now when I click the console, or when I click the notification, if I go to the console, see, now it opened up inbox. And if I go to the console, it should say notification permission status granted, user clicked go. So sometimes you have little funny things like that that happen. If I show the notification again, I click the main body, it'll say user clicked main body. If I show the notification again and I click no thanks, user click close. That can happen when you're developing multiple PWAs and you have service workers all over the place because they can kind of intertwine and save to your cache and stuff. So you do have to be aware of that, but yeah, nothing you guys have to be worried about right now because you guys only have the one that you're developing, but just something that can happen, just so you know. Coolio. All right, just a couple more things. Before, and I think it's honestly, it's a pretty light day today. We're gonna do this, and then I'll let you guys continue to work on your assignment 2s that are due, just after the weekend. So I want to show you guys, and I kind of just did a little bit, but maybe I went too fast. Caching resources, okay? So I hit F12 and I go to application here because we've got a web app. We have a web application. And this is where we can actually take a look at our cache storage. So if I come down here, we can see a couple of things, and I'm going to annotate this just so that it helps you guys out. So in this section, we can see our service worker, our storage, and our manifest. In this section, we can actually see like cookies, session storage, and stuff like that. And then in this section here, we can see our cache, which is what we use as a PWA. What part do you want me to zoom in? I don't know if I can zoom in the developer console, Michelle. Sorry, I actually don't know if I can. Let me try. Oh, I can. Okay, there we go. I did not know that that worked. That's awesome. Okay, is that better? That was pure coincidence. Okay, so we can see our manifest here, right? So we can see all the components that make up our web app or our PWA. We can see it's a PWA, it's installable. So we've got our manifest.json. If I click this, it'll show me, right? These are all the icons that we defined, and if I click them, they're all JSON elements, and it's got the 128 by 128, the 144 by 144. There's our color, theme color. Our start URL is /index, right? That's very important. Okay, so that's our manifest.json. If we come to service workers, and this is where I was just showing you, I'm going to go full screen all the way up here. We can see if I click this, it's going to actually open up the code to my service worker. And this is a one way you can verify that it's actually running the code you want it to be running. And if you can see, like, say I made some changes, right, to my code here in sw.js, say I added another comment here, like that, and I do Control S. If I want to see it's actually referencing, you know, the right code, then I can just come down. I can go back to application. You can access this stuff so many ways, but go to application, click it, and then it brings you over to the sources tab. But if I come down, we can see it is using that version, right? There's my new comment. Okay, go back to application. A couple things important to understand here. So I've got something called update on reload. So you do want to have this clicked while you're doing testing and stuff, because if you don't, what might happen is it will cache your service worker, and then once it's cached, it won't actually reload it. It will say, hey, I've got this file called serviceworker.js that you're trying to load, and I have it already in my cache. I'm just going to use it for my cache storage. I'm not going to use the new one from the server, because why bother reloading it? But because we're testing, we want to update on reload. All right. Another thing that you can do, and this is how we test if we're offline, if our app works offline, is you click this offline button, okay? And that'll basically emulate. You can see my network tab has a little thing here, and it's basically acting as if I just disconnected the entire network. So obviously I haven't disconnected the entire network because I'm still live streaming to you guys. But if I click offline here and I refresh the page, we can see how our app will function if it's offline. And we can see, look, this is a notification body. Go to the website, no thanks. But the images aren't there anymore because remember, I referenced those icons from a URL, not actually from my asset folder. So if I go to my code here and I go to my main.js and say we don't want to use that icon anymore for our badge, say we want to use an actual image, okay, that we have that's downloaded, it's offline. So if the user is using this on their phone or on their machine, they'll still see the images, right? So I just refreshed that now. I'm going to go back online just so I can get the new code. And I'm going to refresh this. All right. And then I'm going to test it online first. And there's my new image. Okay. So it's not the sword anymore. And then I'm going to go offline. All right. The swords should disappear because I won't be able to get those images online anymore because they're hosted on my website. But the hello world icon should still be there. Oops, it's not. Perhaps it's still in the cache. If I update this. Let me just check the code to make sure it's referencing sw.js, main.js. It is referencing the image, so that's good. Badge. Apparently I've got 29 errors on my... Ooh. Unknown error occurred. Request unavailable in the network panel. Yeah, that's because I turned my network offline. But if I refresh this, let me just try to fix some of these errors. Okay. I'm going to just stop my server completely, go live again. Right, go into our developer console, see if there's any errors. There's no errors this time, so obviously that was just some network errors that were happening. Okay, so I'm just going to double check to make sure I'm referencing my image now in main.js. I am referencing my image. I'm referencing my image again. So now if we go back to application, service worker, go offline, refresh, we see that the app still works as expected, right? And if I click the notification button, we get a notification. For some reason, my image isn't actually loading, but your image should load there. Did that work for anybody? For some reason, you know what? I bet you if we go to our cache storage down here, this is where we can see all of our cached elements. And I know my app is called, if I go to sw.js, my app is called hello-pwa. All right, you guys will only have one of these. If I go in here, we can see, look, my images folder isn't cached. So yours won't work either. I'm caching the root, okay, of my website. But if we click in here, we can preview that this is just code. There's no actual caching of images. We've cached our style, we've cached our index, we've cached our main.js. But let's actually go in here. Let's add a line. Let's do this, and let's add /images. And we want to add all of them. And I'm going to add a comma after that. And I'm going to save it. We're going to go back to our service worker, turn on line. So I'm going to go back online. I'm going to just refresh. And just to be sure, extra sure, I'm going to close the server and I'm going to go live again. Now, you have to be careful with that little offline button as a developer in the F12, because if you do it and you forget, then your stuff won't work and you're going to be like, what the heck, why is nothing working? It says I'm offline and my internet is working. So you just have to remember that you did it. Okay, so let's check our cache storage here again, and let's see if our images are actually loaded. Look at this. If I go to images, my images should be loaded. Let's take a look. Don't see anything yet. Now if I go offline, okay, it's because our images aren't cached. I thought that that would work there for a second. 1 second. Just gonna make sure I'm doing this right. All right, so we're gonna come back here. We're gonna make sure we cache this properly. I'm gonna make sure that I click that back online. Okay, so files to cache. Okay, so that gets called here. So add event listener, install caches.open cache name, then function cache, return cache.add all files to cache. So that should work. And then what we should do here, fetch, respond with cache.match a request, return response. Okay. That should work, unless I'm referencing it wrong. /index/images. Sorry, guys. Just trying to. Images are not caching. Oh, I see. So if we import the actual images in our JavaScript, it says it should work. So I don't think I can just do all of them, but let's say, for example, what's the one that I'm using down here in main.js? It's this one. Let's cache this specific file. Let's try that. Right, and then I will stop my server and go live. If this doesn't work, I'll be a little bit unsure. Oh, it loaded over here. There we go. Let's check our cache. So these are just helpful tools, though, just actually knowing how to check your cache and stuff. So that is what I wanted to show you. Cache storage, hello PWA. There it is. See, so you have to actually specify the image itself. If I go just /images, it's not going to know what that is. So here we can see, I don't know how to bring this up. It's not letting me. But if there's our image. So if I do go offline, as an example, if I go offline here, and then I actually hit my notification, it should still be there. Awesome. Okay. So that is how we can check if our offline stuff's working. That's how we can check if things are in our cache or not. And you can see a little preview of them there. We can see it's 512 by 512, and that's exactly where our image is. Here it thinks that the content type is text/HTML, when that's actually incorrect. So you have to actually specify the image itself. Let me know if that worked for you, Salman, because I know you said yours was having the same issue. Cool. Here we can see background services. So like background sync, notifications, if you want to do payment handling and push messaging, that's all stuff that, we might not actually have enough time to cover this year, but it's all that good stuff in PWA APIs that we can use. So another thing to take a look at here is in the network tab. Okay. So in the network tab, we can see this is going to show us, I've disabled the cache here. I don't necessarily want to disable the cache, but we can actually see it downloading and caching the resources. So if I don't disable this and I start recording, so you do Control R, yours might look like that. What it will do is it'll refresh the page and then it will show you how it works with the network. So it's going to download all these things and it will show you kind of a waterfall. It showed it there for a second. Oops. Select the entire thing. There we go. It'll show you like a waterfall approach. Here we go. View of everything that it downloaded here. And we can see, oops. It took, if I hover over them, it took 50 milliseconds to get some of the stuff at the very beginning there. What was that? Just my local host and the sw.js. And then we can see it actually, we can look at the document that it actually downloaded over here into the cache that it loaded from the network. If I can actually pull this over, the manifest.json, it downloaded over here and it took 62 milliseconds. Your hello icon.png took 29 milliseconds just for the image. And then my icon.favicon, for some reason, the waterfall is like very scrunched up over here, unfortunately. I wish I could show you a better version of it, but if you disable your cache, then it will force it to load from the network every single time. So you want to be able to use the cache. And then what that'll do, if you had a really intense site, if I just refresh this, it'll be instant. It'll just be instant like that. And then there's your waterfall. There you go. But yeah, so that's the network tab. And obviously if you turn offline here, then the network tab has that little error. So we just leave that on. Your storage here will show you your actual usage. So the amount of storage you have on your machine will be different depending on your actual machine. So for mine, it says 71 gigs of storage quota. And that's based on like RAM requirements and hard drive and all of that kind of stuff. And I've only used 43 kilobytes. Oh, it's working offline? Cool. So it didn't show the smaller icons on the notification, right? No, it just shows, I'll show you again. Well, right now I'm online, so it will show them. But as soon as I go offline, because they're loaded from my venergon.ca, they won't be there. See, there's buttons, but the hello is still there because I cached it. What was I saying? Oh, storage. So you can kind of see this little pie graph of how much you've actually used your cache storage and then your service workers. So cache storage is just like, that's my image, and then that's the rest of my files. And the bigger your website gets, then the more storage you'll be using. No, I just changed the one icon, but you totally can if you want to. Okay, what else did I want to show you guys? Network tab, that's there. So we can see all the resources that it fetched, the PNGs, everything is all here. The offline functionality I just showed you. Oh, so you can do the offline thing two ways. So you can do it through your service worker here and go offline. You can also go to your network and then where it says no throttling here. This is a cool way that you can test different network speeds. So if you wanted to test like how your site would work on fast 3G, slow 3G, or offline. So if you want to go offline, okay, I am technically offline right now. Same thing, the notification, you can see the buttons don't work. And if I refresh it, the page still will refresh. That's the coolest thing. And look, if we look into the network here, it's saying, hey, I went to go find the manifest file. I wasn't able to find it. Oh, sheesh, these are all wonky. I wasn't able to find it, so some of these, they actually load them from the cache. Like the main.js, it loaded it from the cache because we had it cached. The manifest.json should have been loaded from the cache. I believe maybe I'm not caching it. So let's say I add my manifest.json here to the cache. Manifest.json. If I do that, see how I've got the error here? Now it actually fetched it, and there it is. There's the actual code. So if I just go online, no throttling, right? Refresh, everything's there. And now if I go offline again and I refresh, it got them all from the cache there. And we can see it took 6 milliseconds. And I think, does it tell you where it's actually finding them? Fetch, document style sheet, fetch. So yeah, pretty cool that we can load things straight from our cache. Now, if you wanted to see like what would it be like on slow 3G, obviously it should be instant because it's all cached. So there you go. There you go. And it found them all very quickly in 8 milliseconds. Very cool. You can just do no throttling and put it back online. Awesome. I'm just going to stop that server because there's some errors there with the network, and good. Now, Michelle was asking about a favicon earlier. So if we look here, we can see I've just got a default little globe. I've got nothing, okay? So if we wanted to have a favicon, all we have to do, it's pretty simple. I think you can generate them online. Generator. Let's just make one, whatever we want. Favicon.io is the one that I've used in the past. So you can upload an image if you already have an image that you like. So if you wanted to, you can drag and drop your image and it will convert it to a .ico file. And then you can just download it from here, and then you'll just copy the following tags and put them into the head of your file. So pretty straightforward. Let's use one of the images that we have. So I'm just going to drop this little H in here. It's converted it. And then, oops, I'm just going to download it. And it extracts it into its own folder called favicon.ico, which is an icon file. All right. downloads of Favicon ICO. There they are. And then it says, once those files are downloaded, just place the files in the root directory of your website. So the Android Chrome 192, the Android Chrome 512, which we already have, the Apple Touch icon, which, let me see if we have that already. I know we're referencing it. .html. No, it's not. Oh, we do have the Apple Touch icon here, so we don't need that one. What else did they say? The Favicon, and Site Web Manifest. Okay, so the manifest, we also have our own manifest.json, so we don't need that one either. But we can take a look at what they have in theirs. Open it with. Let's take a look here. Notepad. Sorry, Sublime. Let's see what they got. So we can see their manifest file is very similar, but then in icons they referenced, their Android Chrome 192. They've got their Android Chrome 512, which we have already referenced. They've given it a background color. The display was standalone, so we already have all that stuff. We don't need theirs. I don't think we need the 512 or the 192 either, or the Apple Touch icons. So really, we just want to take the favicon.ico file and then the reference to the favicon.ico file, which would be these two. Actually, sure. Those are the only ones. Okay, good. Save that. Okay, so we just take these two, put them into our index.html right here at the top. And then, of course, they're referencing images that we don't have in our root folder. So we're going to go to our root folder. Obviously, that's right here. And then I'm going to open up the folder that we extracted. And I'm referencing this one and this one. I'm just going to drag it in and drop it. And then hopefully when I save those, I go live, it should work. It gave me 3 of them, yes, but I'm only referencing these 2 for now. And we can see that didn't work quite yet. So I need to add one more. There's one more thing I'm missing. Okay, so there should be one more reference that I need to make. Yes. So if I go in here and then here, you take this favicon.ico file, plop it in, just like that. And then go to our browser, refresh. Just going to close all of these ones. Close that. And restart my server. It should just automatically detect that .ico file. Leave. You might be right, actually. It might be caching. Let me just double check. That's a great point. It might be giving me the cached versions of what I'm going to do. So I'm going to disable the cache. I go to my application, update on reload, check out to make sure. Oh, fine. Let's check out the index.html is actually the one that I sources index.html. Does it have the new icons I added? Link rel, Favicon type. So the Favicon is there. Favicon.ico. That's good. Image X icon, Apple Touch icon. Which index is this referencing? It should be there then, because it's referencing the icon file. Did it work for anybody else? Just out of curiosity? Update something on here. I'm going to add a couple of these just to make sure I'm using the right one. Ah, see, I added some exclamation marks and it didn't take it from the one. For some reason, it's referencing my other page, which is kind of annoying. Go to here and I do it in an incognito window. That's what Michelle suggested. There we go. See, now it's using my new file and there's my favicon. So for some reason, it was using my old HTML and it didn't have these updated when I just added them. So you can see it's still just one, even though I added them in my code right here. I added those exclamation marks. For some reason, it can be kind of a frustrating thing. Like, yes, it cached it, which is awesome, but you got to come back here and, you know, unregister that service worker. Fully, like, let's just refresh the page, and there we go. And look, now the favicons there. So sometimes you have to really unregister the service worker, and then you get your new code. So you can be debugging sometimes, and that's what the problem is the whole time. And there you go. You've got your little favicon that's been added to the top of your site. So that is how you do favicon. Cool. Did anybody get that working? I was testing that for a while there, but hopefully you guys stuck with me. Got about a couple other people in here. Armin, how did yours go? Salman, Mithun, Rohan, Sun, and Michelle. How did you guys do?
So just solves the live server error. We'll do it later. I will do it later.
Oh, you couldn't get the live server working, hey?
Yes, but I did it like
Hmm.
now it's working.
Oh, it is working. Oh, okay. What was the problem?
Actually, sir, I uninstalled it and like restarted my PC during the lecture
Oh, sheesh.
and then installed the Visual Studio Code again. Then it worked.
Oh, that's so
I
interesting.
don't know what
Yeah,
was
I
the
don't know
error.
why that happens sometimes.
Yes.
That's weird. Okay. No worries. Okay, cool. Yeah, well, I'll post the recording later, but the other recording that's on there right now has all of this information too. So if you wanted to do it there, then you can too.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, okay. Sweet. Sounds good, Michelle. What about you, Mithun? Okay, well, I'll stop the recording here, just so you guys don't have to watch me ask questions at the end of the recording.